Hey, welcome to 1500ESPN.com. I'm Derek Wetmore, and this is Andrew Kramer. We just got done chatting with Mike Zimmer for his final address to the media of the 2014 season. A lot of interesting things Zimmer talked about in his roughly 34 minutes on the podium. We're going to get into kind of the three biggest ones on this video. We'll also talk about all these on the Purple Podcast. This week's Purple Podcast is going to be specifically dedicated to the Mike Zimmer post-season address of the media and kind of his reflection, really, not only on the Viking season, but on his personal performance. On this video, we're going to talk about his comments on Adrian Peterson. The first time he's really kind of dug into that since all of this stuff went down. His comments on Teddy Bridgewater, some interesting stuff there. And finally, his self-assessment, sort of his grade for himself, I guess. Not a letter grade, but just how he felt he did. I'll give a letter grade. I think I'll grade him at the end of the video.
For it.
But Andrew, on Adrian Peterson, this is really the first time that Zimmer's addressed it other than, hey, it's out of our hands, we have to wait and see. What did you think about his comments based on, he still doesn't know if Peterson will be with the team next year?
Yeah, it's a situation, like you said, he hasn't spoken about this openly since September 14th when all this kind of went down and they had to put Adrian Peterson on that reserve commissioner list,
Right.
But with Peterson, 30 years old, the numbers are out there. 30 years old, $15.5 million cap hit next year. He doesn't have much wear and tear, obviously, from this season, but that's not really their primary concern. Their primary concern is, in my opinion, if they approach him for a restructure, will he take it? If he scoffs at something like that, the decision's made for you, part ways, because you should not keep him on your roster if he wants to keep his current contract, because it's only going up and you're only going to pay him more when his production at that age is going to go down statistically and historically. So because of all those factors and the PR fiasco, just imagine what it's going to be like that first press conference when he comes back. It's going to be a circus. Not that that keeps a star running back off the field, but it's just another factor into all these things because you also have to worry about the sponsorships, all these other things going on. So because of all those factors, Derek, I don't believe Adrian Peterson's going to be back with the Vikings, but Mike Zimmer said today that when that decision is made, he'll be in Adrian Peterson's corner. He believes Adrian's a good guy, but he says he thinks the primary concern is Adrian getting his own personal life in order before he can worry about football matters. And certainly for the Vikings, they need to go ahead and start planning for the 2015 season as if they're not going to be with him, even though he's under contract.
Yeah, I like the way he handled it, basically saying that if he gets all of his life in order and he gets his things together, the league chooses to reinstate him on that April 15th date, and the Vikings choose to keep him, then I'll be in his corner. And I think that's the way to go. You support him if he's in your locker room, but he was very non-committal about the state of Adrian Peterson.
And really their hands are tied to a point to where the appeal was obviously shut down for Adrian Peterson, so that initial suspension still stands. He needs to go see a psychiatrist. He needs to do all these other league-mandated things to be reinstated by April 15th, which again is the earliest. It's not a mandated reinstatement. That's the earliest he could possibly rejoin the Vikings.
Yeah, keep in mind, too, an important thing in this, Andrew, is that date, that April 15th possible reinstatement date, is after a lot of the league year things have started. There are important decisions that will have already been made.
Yes, free agency. They have already signed all of their free agents by then. They would already target their top 30 in the draft. They would have already brought all those in. So if they want to target a running back, they need to know what they're doing with Adrian Peterson, because obviously Jerick McKinnon's already a project. If they want to go get a veteran in free agency, that's going to hinge on whether or not Adrian Peterson's there. They owe him a $250,000 roster bonus come the first, I think it's March 3rd, whenever the new league year begins, the official date. The beginning of March, they'd owe him a $250,000. So that could be one kind of setting point where they want to get that figured out by then.
Yeah, I think the decision will have been made by then. Another kind of shifting gears to a less uncertainty with the Vikings, which seems surprising to say, the quarterback. Quarterback's no longer uncertain. Mike Zimmer made that very clear on Tuesday. He said that Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback. He was asked about Matt Castle. He said, hey, have you talked to him about potentially accepting a backup role? Would he be okay with that? Because he's still got a year left on his contract. And Mike Zimmer said, we haven't had that conversation. Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback. What did you think about how firmly and how strongly he basically said that we've got this position figured out? It seems like, really, to me, Andrew, for the first time since Brett Favre, but before that, probably Dante Culpepper.
Well, I joked. I said he said this right as he noted the sky's blue, because obviously Teddy Bridgewater is going to be the quarterback for the Minnesota Vikings. This is obvious. I mean, through 12 starts, he's third all-time in rookie completion percentage in his through just 12 starts. So to me, the statistics, the way he developed through the year, his progression, all those things to me made it an obvious answer. Mike Zimmer just came out and said it today. Teddy Bridgewater is the quarterback of the future, but the key to this was he was answering a question about Matt Castle. Could Matt Castle want to come back and accept a backup role? Mike Zimmer said he has not talked to Matt about that yet. Matt Castle is still under contract for 2015, so he could be a backup to Teddy Bridgewater, or if Matt Castle wants to go out there and get another contract, maybe a starting job, he's going to probably go leave and do that instead.
Yeah. And likewise, Christian Ponder is leaving. He is done. He said yesterday that he wasn't closing any doors, that he could potentially return with the Vikings, but every sign points to Christian Ponder he's seeking work elsewhere. So the Vikings will have to figure out a little bit about the quarterback, but for the first time in a long time, it feels like, Andrew, they feel secure in who their starter will be.
They do. They got their starter set for the future, at least for the next 3 years under rookie contract.
True, exactly. And they have a fifth-year option if they want it, which is a great deal.
They do, yep.
Finally, a self-assessment for Mike Zimmer. He was... I don't want to say that he was harsh on himself because he really wasn't. He said that he did a good job, but he was the first one to acknowledge some of the shortcomings, the in-game decisions that he screwed up, other things that he would have liked to have done differently. One thing I really liked, Andrew, is that he said he never felt overwhelmed.
Yeah.
I think that's a very important trait for his first year as an NFL head coach, when you thought he might kind of things start moving too quickly for him sometimes. He said that wasn't the case. He said he felt like he did a decent job overall, but he wants to get better next year.
So even when his star running back was on the commissioner's exempt list, when his whole offensive line was on IR, when he had kidney stones that he needed to get treated during a Friday practice, and a rookie quarterback, he wasn't overwhelmed. So, short of a meteor hitting Winter Park next year, I don't think much more adversity is going to face this team. But what I took away from that in terms of Mike Zimmer is that he said he learned specifically from that Buffalo game where he ended up not calling a timeout on that 4th and 20. Chad Greenway was kind of out of position trying to help somebody else, and then they complete that, and then 2 plays later they get the game-winning touchdown, and they lose by 1 point in Buffalo. Really, those kind of games they should have won. All 5 of their last losses were by 1 possession, and it goes to show you how much time management plays a factor in all these.
Exactly.
Not to say that one error here or there caused Mike Zimmer to lose a game on his part, but he says he's learned overall just in terms of what he can and can't do, and just in terms of dividing up your time. He was a defensive coordinator for 20 years. Yeah. You're just used to focusing on one side of the ball, so that was a learning curve for him, and he was pretty open and honest about that today.
He didn't give himself a grade. I'm going to. I give Mike Zimmer's first season as head coach of the Vikings a B. I think he did great work turning around the defense. You've seen some progress there. Tons of things went against them, and they still held the ship together to finish 7-9. But that leaves room for improvement in the future. I give him a B.
I'd have to agree with that. Yeah, I would be a B+.
We agree on something, finally. Fantastic. Well, we're going to record a Purple Podcast here. Check that out, 1500ESPN.com or on iTunes. Just search Purple Podcast. For Andrew Kramer, I'm Derek Wetmore. Thanks for watching these videos this season. We'll catch you later.